Hello, my name's Daniel Angeletti, and I'm here with.
I'm Justin Hiatt. I'm a sergeant with the United States Marine Corps.
All right, so without further ado, let's get this interview going. So, how many years have you been in the Marine Corps? Let's start with that.
I've been in 11 years, going on 12.
So, what year did you say that you joined?
I joined in 2013.
Okay, so my first question to you is, where were you born? What did your childhood look like, and what was your home dynamic and upbringing like?
So I was born in Janesville, Wisconsin, and my childhood was pretty, it was pretty interesting. It was, we weren't very well off at all. Kind of struggling to make ends meet, but we always made it through. We stuck together as a family. As far as like being brought up in that area, it was kind of a low end area, and throughout most of my childhood, I kind of fit in with a really bad crowd. And when I was going through all of that, I ended up getting into trouble a lot, fighting kids a lot. I kind of grew up on bad terms with not only school, but just everybody in the area in general. I ended up getting into, gang activity and stuff like that later on in my life in my teenage years. And it was pretty dynamic for me as being younger. I didn't really think too much of it because I was just an idiot kid, but looking back on it, that was kind of crazy to be a kid and be getting involved in that kind of stuff. But as I grew up, we ended up making a decision to move down to Texas, and from there, I kind of like 180'd my life. I managed to finish up high school, and got more into sports, got more into a good crowd. I left the whole gang thing behind, left the whole gang act behind. It took me a while to get acclimated, but it was nice. And from there, that's just when I enlisted into the Corps, straight out of high school.
Man, so tell me a little bit about that. What was the recruitment process for you like?
It was a lot different. I didn't have recruiters reach out to me. Like most people, they'll interact with a recruiter or they'll see something on TV and they'll end up going, to the office after seeing that kind of stuff or play a video game like Call of Duty or something. But for me, it was a little different. I've always wanted to join the Marine Corps. I think 9/11 had a really big impact on me, and that's what kind of pushed me towards that direction, just seeing innocent people get put into a position where it was inevitable. Their doom was inevitable, and I don't like seeing people in that kind of position ever, because it kind of reminds me of how I was growing up, just in a situation where, you thought you can't get out of it, and so it really steered me towards that, that just something about the warrior culture brought me into it, the way they protect people, the way they defend people, and I don't know exactly what drew me towards the Marine Corps. I think it was just a matter of them being the most prestigious, the best branch out of there. Literally everywhere they go, everything that they do, everybody knows. They know who they are.
Yeah.
And that really stuck out to me because you don't get that with the other branches. And it had nothing to do with the recruiting commercials being better or anything like that. It was more the fact that it was just everywhere that I went, there was always like a Marine. Like I didn't even know my dad was in the Marines for the longest time until he told me. I had, uncles and grandfathers and stuff that were in the Marine Corps way down the line, and just always hearing about what they've done, how they conducted themselves, it kind of stuck out, and I was like, alright, well that seems like, the best route to go. I didn't really click with the Army, mainly because when Iraq popped off the first time, not the Gulf War, but so I guess it would be the second time. It was after 9/11. My uncle was out there, and they damn near almost left him behind on a couple of the missions, and the fact that he is the man who he is, is the only reason he really is still alive, because he was in situations where the Army kind of left him for dead, and that wasn't the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps would never leave a man behind, and that's what really drove me to them, and how it kind of went. When I finally made that decision, I was 17 at the time in high school. I kind of drug my mom into the recruiting office. And yeah, the rest is history. I was like, hey, you could either sign these papers or I could wait till I'm 18 to sign these papers, but this is absolutely what I want to do in life.
Man, so just seeing, I guess, like the difference in how they operated between all the other branches and the prestigiousness within the branch, I guess that's how the Marine Corps inspired you, in a sense.
Yeah, I guess you can say that. It definitely does resonate with a lot of people, just seeing the difference in how we operate. I mean, I see it with the poolies on the daily. You go into any other recruiting office and it's straight to business. They sit you down. They ask you questions, what you want to do for a job. They offer you bonuses, X, Y, and Z. Well, the Marine Corps is the only office you'll go sit down in, and they'll ask you about your life. They'll ask you about, how's the family and everything. It seems more personal. It seems more authentic. Like they actually care for you. Yeah. And that resonates with a lot of people.
Man, so you've told me quite a few stories, but I'm gonna ask regardless. So what was boot camp like for you, and when you got there, did you have any second thoughts about being there?
Boot camp is hectic. It is really what you make it, and it's sad for some people. It's a bad time for some people. It's a good time for some people. I was one of those who had just a strange time with it. Like, I wasn't really sad being necessarily away from home. I did miss my bed, but that was about the extent of it. Otherwise, I was kind of excited to be there. A lot of people, when they get off the bus, the first time, and they sit in those, they stand in those yellow footprints, they kind of have like a come to Jesus moment, and it's kind of like, what did I sign up for? Yeah. But I stood on those, and I was just, it was everything you've seen in the YouTube videos, because everybody does their own research before they go, and I was just watching tons of YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, this is everything. I knew this was gonna happen, So I was excited to be there. I was excited to be there. I was in a whole new place. I really haven't left my home state aside from moving down to Texas, but that doesn't really count because you're driving through those states. So getting to San Diego for the first time and just being on the West Coast, being on my own too, I think that was really awesome. Just being away from the family and stuff like that. Like a lot of people, I think that's what they have a hard time with, is the disassociation with not being there with their family, because it's 3 months, it is a long time for some people, but I loved it, because all I wanted to do when I was growing up was just be on my own, and it gave me that freedom. It definitely gave me that freedom, so I was ecstatic to be there. As far as the whole 3 months I was there, I mean, it's the most grueling 3 months you're gonna go through. It really is. You're in a specific headspace. You're stressed out all the time. You're constantly moving. There's really not a whole lot of relaxation time other than like the time you get at night to square away your stuff and everything like that. Maybe aside from, the family or the Marine Week where you already earned the title. But other than that, you're constantly learning. You're constantly doing something. There's a whole lot of hurry up to wait, but at the same time, while you're waiting, you're learning. You're taking in knowledge, you're studying, like you're just getting ready to become a Marine, and honestly, it's pretty nice, but any bad news will have you just, cooked. Like if you get a bad letter or something like that, like you are cooked, because that's just the headspace that it puts you in.
Yeah. So, Do you have any what's the scariest thing that you saw a drill instructor do?
Um, it's there's a lot of moments. I mean, it wasn't necessarily me scared. It was more just like a moment that like you didn't think it would happen. You know, we definitely saw our kill rat almost fight our senior drill instructor. Like they were cussing at each other. This was before the Crucible hike too, and it was like it's like a bunch of toddlers watching their dads fight each other like the first time. You know, it's like you're working with these guys, and you're like, I didn't think they would ever come to that. You know, and
Yeah.
it was pretty funny. I'm not even gonna lie. It was pretty funny. It was pretty crazy the way it happened. Like it was over something so minuscule too. But these guys, you got to keep in mind, these dudes they're running off of zero sleep. You know, you always think that you're the one that's tired in boot camp. They're twice as tired because they got to be up earlier to prep everything, get everything ready. Like they truly are taking care of you in boot camp. But that I'd say that would be the craziest thing that we saw in boot camp was they almost came to fisticuffs, and it was so weird because like they were like full blown cussing at each other, dang near fighting each other, and then just like 5 minutes later, it's like they're best bros again, and we're off on our hike to go to the Crucible. You know, it was really crazy.
Man, okay, so that's actually something I'm gonna bring up later in the interview as far as the fighting and then becoming bros again. But as far as the next question goes, so after boot camp, what was the first MOS you had, and what did that MOS detail?
So the first MOS that I had was 6672. It was aviation supply, and I seriously did not want to be there. When I knew I got that MOS, I purposely failed MCT 3 times just so I could stay there because I didn't want to go to my MOS school. But I ended up going. That school is, well, like that MOS in general, that job in general is it's pretty run of the mill. Like it's like a warehouse job, so it's heavy in logistics. Like it's almost like you're working for Amazon, but for the Marine Corps. You know,
Yeah.
got a uniform and everything, and the mission is obviously much more important. Instead of sending everybody their commodity goods so they can sit back and relax in their houses and eat cheesy poofs all day, it was, hey, I'm delivering actual substantial jet parts to these fighters so they can actually get their flight hours in so we can, keep the training up and keep these pilots engaged just in case, Russia or China decides to act up one day,
Yeah.
It was really interesting. So I always thought when you went into the Marine Corps that once you had that MOS, you were going to be stuck in that MOS. I always thought that. I don't know why I always thought that. I guess my recruiters just never told me, and it's not. I'm not blaming them. I loved my recruiters. I thought they were fantastic folks. It's more just it was something that I never thought about asking, and I don't think a lot of people ask that. Is like, hey, just because I got this job, do I have to stay in this job? And the answer is no. And even if you're designated for that job, and you could still cross train with other things. So like I got eventually really good with aviation supply to the point where I was like that go-to guy. I was the subject matter expert. A lot of people would hit me up for my advice on specific matters, and a lot of times the squadrons, they would reach out to me for assistance and help. And I would always go over there. I would always go cross-train with them. I'd be like, hey, man, I could teach you this if you can teach me that. And it was awesome. Eventually I started doing that with the whole, air wing that I was in, the whole air wing section. I was in Miles 31. Miles stands for Marine Aviation Logistics Station. And it was cool, man. I learned ordnance, airframes, avionics, life support systems. I did a little bit of getting involved with the parachute rigging. I didn't get hands-on because I can't legally, but they did teach me how it works and everything like that. I got to see the process. It was really cool. I got to work as an expediter. I got to work with ALIMS, maintenance admin, all that. It was really cool, man. I didn't just sit still in my own MOS. I could have just easily just stayed in the warehouse and just been an MOS, little rat, and just stayed where I was put. But I was rebellious. I got good. I got bored, so I went out and explored. And it's funny too, because like I grew up hating school, and eventually you just get like a lust for knowledge, and I did. I soaked up everything. I loved getting hands-on. I loved learning new things, and I don't regret it, man. I don't regret it because I went open contract out of the station, and I did end up getting thrown into that, which is a job that I never wanted because I wanted infantry at first, and it worked out. Dude, I don't live life with a whole lot of regrets at all. I think I only have one regret in life, but that's about it. But as far as like having it to deal with the Marine Corps, no, it was more of a gang activity. But yeah, I hunkered down on it. I ended up liking it. Well, I mean, not the MOS, but just the like of the people that I knew, the knowledge that I knew, the way processes work on the outside world too. Because you don't just learn about the Marine Corps. You know, you learn about the outside supply world as well, because you have to deal with them in that MOS. And I thought it was really humbling. But yeah, that's aviation supply in a nutshell.
Man, so eventually, so you're currently mortarman slash recruiter, but your primary MOS at the moment is mortarman. So what pushed you to? You just said that you originally wanted infantry going in, but is that part of the reason that you switched to that MOS?
So, yes. My whole goal coming into the Marine Corps was to always get somewhat into a combat MOS. I just wanted a combat arms MOS, like, and when I first didn't get infantry, because I would have to wait a year, so that's why I took the open contract. It kind of like a shot to the gut, but I'm glad I did it, because I did want to get out of the hometown. Like, I was like, there's no way I can wait a year. Yeah. But I've always had infantry on the mind, you know, and because of that, I never lost sight of that goal, and I was willing to do pretty much anything to get to that point. So, and it sounds cliche, but if you fight hard enough, you know, to get to somewhere, you will get it. You know, it sounds cheesy and it sounds ridiculous, but it does work out. You just got to put in that effort, and it really did pay off. Like, I remember I tried to apply for lat moves, which is a lateral move. It's where you put in for a change request, essentially, for a job in the Marine Corps. You get with the career planner and everything, you fill out the package, and you try to pick your top 3. It's like going through the recruiting process all over again, but you're a Marine at this point.
Right.
And I tried like 5 times, you know, and all 5 got shot down. And the career planner, she was really cool. I did this over when I was in Japan as a Lance Corporal, and she was really cool. She kind of was straight up and straightforward with me. She said, hey, your first 4 years, you're not really going to get a lat move approved. If you do, it's like super rare. And the reason why is because like they expect you on your first contract to, you know, kind of essentially hunker down and learn your job and learn it well. Because once you do that and you move on to a re-enlistment and you start your next 4-year contract, that's when you become something called a careerist Marine, and they'll look at you a lot more where like they're like, okay, now let's shift this Marine around so we can, you know, he's an expert in this field already, but let's see if we can, you know, move him to other things so he can learn other things. Now, sometimes they'll try to keep you just because the retention, they'll try to keep retention up, but they truly cannot keep you as a careerist Marine. You got a lot of leeway. And so knowing that information that she gave me, which was awesome, I ended up pretty much serving up my contract in the air wing, and I ended up putting in for a lateral move. So the lateral move towards the end of my contract, though, that I put in for, all those MOSs were closed out at the time, and they told me that. So the first lateral move I put in after my 4 years was pretty much kicked back. So I put in for another lateral move, except I chose, I pretty much chose a critical MOS, something that needed a lot of bodies, you know, a lot of people in that area, because they were hurting for them. So I was like, you know what, yeah, let me choose that. So I ended up choosing recon of all places, and it was just something I didn't even necessarily want to do recon. I didn't. Like, I do like the fact that I did get into the school and I did get to try it out. I thought it was awesome then, but obviously I didn't make it. I failed all 3 attempts. I didn't do it on purpose. I did give it my all. But once you fail your 3 attempts at the recon school, they give you an option to reclass. Now, they won't give that to you if you quit. They treat the quitters appropriately, I think. Because if you're going to quit and do something, the Marine Corps doesn't really take quit as an answer, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I used my 3 attempts, and my reclass, I picked the top 3. I picked, I think it went infantry, tanks, and arty, and I put it in that order, and it was pretty crazy, because the career planner at the time, before I got this other career planner, and this isn't the female anymore, I'm back in the stateside, I'm no longer in Japan at this point, I'm a sergeant at this point as well, and this career planner was an interesting guy. I mean, I guess he was trying to be real or something, I don't know, but he straight up told me that I would essentially never be an infantryman, you know, to my face, as I'm sitting at his desk, and I'm like, well, that's a crazy way to, you know, disparage somebody or just, you know, pretty much trash all over their goals. And it was really funny because once he got replaced, so my package got submitted regardless. He can't, like, make me take away my job, you know what I'm saying? I still put it as a pick. And it was really crazy because we got a new career planner, maybe 2 weeks later, because he was getting out anyways. And this new career planner hits me up, and he straight up says, hey, man, I got a class seat for 0341 for you. Do you want to take it? And I had the biggest grin on my face. You know, it was like, there's no way, you know. And I straight up, without hesitation, I was like, yes, I'm going to take that. Absolutely. Give me that corps state. Give me that class state. I'm going infantry, you know, because 0341 is infantry mortarman. And, you know, the rest is history. Now I'm here, and I love it, man. It's a huge dynamic. It's essentially everything I wanted to begin with in the Marine Corps, you know, because supplies for some people, supplies not for some people. Me, I'm not a behind the desk kind of guy. I'm not a stay idle kind of guy. I don't like sitting back in warehouses or anything like that. Me, I like to get hands on. I like to crawl around in the dirt, blow stuff up, and pretty much hang out with the boys, and that is literally the infantry in a nutshell. Of course, I'm sugarcoating it, obviously, but because it is the most physically demanding MOS. There's a lot to entail. It is a life or death MOS too, because you're dealing with your boys' survival essentially. And I wouldn't have it any other way though. It's truly an awesome MOS. I love the guys that I've met along the way. They're great people, great human beings, and it's just overall just a great experience.
Man, so you've told me about a couple deployments in the past. So the most interesting one you told me about, you never did see combat from what you told me, but you were kind of in a position where you were on standby. Can you tell me a little bit about that deployment?
Yeah, so this was 2020 to 2021. We were on the 26B, so we were originally slated to go up to Norway to do an exercise with 6 or 7 other NATO countries. It was going to be pretty cool. And around that time, I guess Trump slapped a warhead on some dude's forehead, and Iran got really, really crumpled about that. They were angry. And so they started closing down all the straits in the Med Sea and everything. They were trying to close down all the oil trade. Mm-hmm. And the Middle East, all the local Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Emiratis, however you want to pronounce it, they reached out to us, actually, and they were like, hey, you know, Iran is literally trying to force our hand. They are using military might to force our hand. They're trying to close the straits, trying to bar us from trade. Can you spare somebody to come out here and pretty much tell them no? And we were the closest unit out there, right? And this is a time where COVID was about to hit off and everything. You know, God forbid. And it was interesting, man. Yeah, so we were going to Norway at first. We had briefs about it. We did workups preparing for it. And then out of nowhere, it was none of that deployment went as it was supposed to be planned. You know, it was kind of just hey, you know, Iran's acting up. we got new mission sets. Here's the brief. Here's how this is going to go. Get your guys ready, you know. And that's all we did on ship was just keep training, maintain readiness, and get ready for a whole new area that we weren't even prepared for, you know. So we went to the Middle East, and it counted as a combat MOS. We were technically deployed to a war zone because, like, this wasn't just like, oh, you know, we're going there to tell Iran no. No, like, Iran was there with us crossing these straits. They were actively trying to deter us. They were pointing guns at us. They were driving their boats up to the ship. They were threatening to, you know, torpedo us, blow us up, all this other crap. And I'm like, all right, you know, we were all bored and angry because the trip wasn't going how it was planned and COVID hit, and there was a lot of BS going on the ship. And when you got a bunch of angry Marines on ship, we're just itching for a fight. Like, we are itching to, you give us a reason to come smoke your stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were about to go take over Iran, essentially. Yeah. Like, we were ready for it. It was like, man, just I hope one of these guys misfires and we smoke them, and then we go just board their country and take it over. You know, that was the mindset that all of my guys had. We were ready for a fight. But they never tried anything. I think they knew a little better. They knew who was on that ship. They never got next to us. You know, they never came up to the big boat where all the Marines were. They never came up to the destroyers where the Marines were. They always harassed the ones with just the Navy on there because they knew they got close to the Marine ships that we would just blow their ships up because we had what's called a fiery or trigger line. Uh-huh. And when you pass that certain meter of that trigger line, we'll just blow your shit up, and you know, we'll call it a day. That's pretty much just how it goes. But yeah, it's, you know, I've been deployed to a combat zone, and nothing really happened. They didn't pull any trigger. We were aimed at them. They were aimed at us. Sure, words were exchanged. You know, some of my boys were probably on Iranian news somewhere for flashing them or mooning them or sharing a sign that pretty much, you know, said F you Iran, but like, other than that, like, nothing really happened, you know? Like, yeah, it counted as a combat deployment. Yeah, it was a combat zone, but it was one of those instances where, like, you know, nothing really happened. Because a lot of people, you know, when they think the Marine Corps, it's like, oh, you know, I'm going to go to war. I'm going to go to a combat zone. But at the end of the day, like, one, it really is MOS dependent on what's going to happen with you. And then two, you know, yeah, despite us being a warfighting organization doesn't mean you're going to necessarily get into a war, even if you are in technically a kinetic or combat zone. You never know what's going to happen. Anything could happen. They could have popped off. We could have been in, you know, a whole war right now, but it just, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda happened, but didn't. And that's just one of those things where you got to take into account, like, we are those guys. I solely think we're not speaking Russian or Chinese right now because everybody's scared of the Marine Corps.
Oh, yes, sir. So, man, so you were just talking about how on ship, whenever you, I guess, give Marines a reason to be angry, it gets pretty ugly. So I guess I'll add this question in right here. I've never been in the military. I'm trying to get in, but I've had family in the military, and they, from what they all say, every Marine combat unit has been very hungry. There's something different about the infantry guys within the Marine Corps, and they're always hungry. So, like, I guess what explains that aspect of the infantry guys in the Marine Corps?
So, I think it's a culture within a culture. Like, the Marine Corps is a cult already. You know, we are the Marine Corps. We love to talk about ourselves. Like, we could be considered the world's best narcissists. It's one of those things. It's like the dodgeball movie, you know. Hey, we're the Marine Corps and we're better than you, and we know it. And it's like, you know, you got that mindset, but then you tack it on to a warrior culture, and that is the Marine Corps in a nutshell. Now, when you think of that and you break it down into a smaller group such as the infantry, you got to think of what that culture within that culture entails. So, like, they already have that mindset. So on top of the Marine mindset, these guys have, like, a warrior mindset as well. I mean, these dudes, they're meat eaters, man. You know, you got a dichotomy of infantry Marine, right? You got an infantry Marine that's like, oh, I hate my life. This crap sucks. I'm just gonna do my 4 and get out. And then you have infantry Marines that are like me, who just eat, breathe, and sleep infantry. Like, you know, it's just like, I love this. You know, I live for this. This is the stuff. I wake up. You know, I go down to the armory at 03. We go out to the swamps. You know, we're there for 10 days, just getting some good training in. There's people like that. Like, I'm one of them who just absolutely love that. And those are the guys that mostly make up the infantry. And it is an insane culture in the infantry because it is like all the world's testosterone that somehow sank away over these past, this past decade, where you see a lot more effeminate men. All the world's testosterone is still arguably within the Marine Corps infantry. These dudes, work hard. They play hard. They are aggressive, but aggressive in the way that you want them to be aggressive. Like, these dudes are ready and hungry for anything to pop off because we know we're ready for it. We stay ready for it. We're always training day in, day out. But we also have, like, the best, PMA, positive mental attitude behind it. Like, we love this stuff. We love doing this stuff. It's like walking around with an extra, chip on your shoulder. Like, we live for it. We know we're always going to be ready. It is a culture where, you look at the Spartans, you look at the Mongols, you look at the samurais. That's Marine Corps infantry. These dudes love to fight. They love to get their hands dirty. They're rough and tough. It's pretty much a bunch of country boys with some city boys in there, and at the end of the day, they all have the same mindset about what we got to do, and that's absolutely defend our country, and at the same time render aid to anybody who needs it.
Man, quite powerful right there, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I don't regret it at all. I love the infantry. I wish I could go back personally, but here I am on recruiting.
Man, all right. So, which brings me to part 2, but we'll take a break real quick.
Alrighty, sounds good.